Kash Patel, FBI Director, obscenely unqualified from the beginning, but he's holding on with it by his fingernails at this moment to this job. It's very precarious. He's botched the Charlie Kirk investigation. You know, MAGA lost one of their own. I don't know if you heard, and is now trying to use it to try to pin the liability and responsibility on all those that don't agree with MAGA. Kash Patel is the tip of the spear, and it made a series of fumbling mistakes where they couldn't even capture one shooter on a rooftop. It had to be the shooter's mom and father and clergy that helped bring him in, but that hasn't stopped Kash Patel from taking credit for it. We cover all of that on the Legal AF podcast, and here's a clip.
And meanwhile, Michael Popok, who is leading the FBI? Some right-wing podcaster, Kash Patel, with really no FBI experience, who doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He was selling children's books of dogs peeing on political enemies. He would sell merch of K $, cash merch. You know, he was out there calling himself the Cash the Meme Lord, and he would show himself like sawing off the heads of politicians in AI memes. You know, a deeply embedded meme culture guy in Kash Patel. And who's leading counterterrorism? Who's leading? A guy named Thomas Fugate III, some 22-year-old intern from Trump's with no law enforcement experience. It's a 22-year-old kid. I mean, look, imagine if Michael Popok, someone came to you or me and said, you guys are running a successful, say generic Democrat becomes president. It would be like them coming to me and saying, hey, I want you to lead the FBI. You know what I would say to them? I would say, you should not be the president of the United States if you think I should lead the FBI, right? It's a pretty sick, but Kash Patel goes, you know what? I'll take the job. I'm going to do it. And we saw how bad he was. First he said it was this guy, and it was like a mentally ill person. Then he said it was this guy who was just an Arab guy who actually was a Charlie Kirk supporter. And then it turns out he was eating at like an Italian restaurant.
I know the restaurant.
He was sending these posts to begin with. Then he shows up at a press conference, and he looked like visibly scared at the press. Like he's like shaking his head left to it. He looked like he was nervous at the press conference. And then he puts out, if you want to get the award, $100,000. He didn't do anything. The dad was the one who turned in his own son. And then he gives that speech. He's like, Charlie, brother, I'll see you in Valhalla. I'll see you over there.
We have the watch.
It's a strange about where I've never even that's the expression that you're going to use. It's also deeply strange. You're in Utah. You're in a country led by Mormons. You're Hindu. Charlie Kirk is Protestant.
No,
but the FBI handled this as and they've caused so much more problems right now as a result that America's just far less safe.
Well, I agree with you. Back to the root cause again. You and I studied in college and philosophy, nihilism, the philosophy that life has no meaning. And that is a version of what we're watching and this is our fault as a society. You and I are parents. This is our fault as a society that we're not instilling and inculcating the values and the social contract and our constitutional republic greatness in our children. And they instead are being taught by their fellow teenagers and middle schoolers, with their earpieces playing streaming gaming and whatever else. And they have become unmoored from what makes America great and what it means to be an American and what it means to be a human being in our society. And so on the conveyor belt of children and young adults being produced, there's going to be a bad apple that gets generated from that with something has happened in their background. This kid wasn't beaten up in school. He was popular. He was good at academics. Something happened. A switch got flipped. And that's what we're supposed to be focusing on, not on what's his politics, what was his Halloween costume, did he use a meme that suggested that he knows, that he's pro-transgender. I mean, it is just ridiculous how quickly the right wing and the Nancy Maces and the Anna Lunas and the Laura Loomers and the Elon Musk jumped on this rickety bandwagon of attacking other Americans. Now, on the we are not safe theme of this podcast, as we've talked about, as soon as Donald Trump put into positions of leadership the Tulsi Gabbards to head up our national intelligence and coupled her with a right-wing podcaster to be the head of the FBI, supported by another right-wing podcaster who can't even find the killer of a right-wing podcaster. That was the beginning of the end. We said they were obscenely unqualified, and we were less safe as a nation as a result. Watching him, Kash Patel, not wanting to be interrupted finishing his lemon chicken at Rayo's. And I've been to Rayo's. I know the restaurant. It was also the scene of a gangland shooting. It's not the place where you would go to be in the FBI. There's a lot of organized crime that used to hang out or could hang out at Rayo's, but this is where he chooses. And rather than go back to FBI headquarters in New York and quarterback this manhunt, he's social media posting. And I by the way, I want to get a copy of the bar tab and the restaurant receipt for Rayo's and how many, let's just say it, how many drinks he had while he's posting. We got him. We apprehended him the night of the murder. And then an hour later said, never mind. Which then Donald Trump had to clean up by going on Fox and Friends, which didn't really help Donald Trump because he then went off on some sort of weirdo wanderer tangent in which he talked about the Chinese have a better court system than we do. Right. And then right after the end of it, they take you out and execute you. And then comments about, I'm not here to bring the country together and I really don't care. Kash Patel didn't do Donald Trump any favors that Trump had to go on and be the FBI director on Fox and Friends and announce the apprehension from the night before. So what he should, but here's our point. So he sits in Rayo's, doesn't go to the FBI headquarters, gets, whatever the feed of information from sitting, trying to eat your chicken parm and then gets it wrong. And the reality, as we said at the top of the show, is the FBI manhunt didn't lead to the capture of this suspect. The kid's parents did. Any local sheriff or law enforcement can post a grainy photo from a video and say, can we find this guy? And have somebody go, yeah, the T-shirt with the wounded veterans and the hat. Yeah, I know that kid. But that wasn't the result of an FBI manhunt. But what it demonstrates is we are woefully ill-prepared between the hollowing out of the FBI as an institution, the firing of the varsity representing the leadership of the FBI, the firing of the junior varsity, which represents the leadership of the FBI, transferring 1,500 people away from Hoover Building in Washington and sending a lot of them to Huntsville, Alabama, and effectively defunding the FBI has left us ill-prepared. God help us if there's another 9/11 or domestic terrorism event in America. How safe do you now feel watching Kash Patel stand watch and try to apprehend one guy who fired a bullet from a rooftop, at Charlie Kirk? He couldn't do that right. Can you imagine what he's going to do next? Any other president would fire Kash Patel for misconduct and incompetence based on what we just watched. This president, of course, won't. He'll double down on Kash Patel and his handling of the FBI. And to just state the obvious, sometimes podcasters have to state the obvious. We have been safe in this country, not because of Donald Trump. We have been safe in this country since 9/11 because of the coordinated efforts of local law enforcement in major cities, coupled with the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and their intelligence gathering, coupled with the CIA and other national security and the security and intelligence apparatus in America. Every one of the things I just mentioned has been destroyed and compromised by Donald Trump and the people he's put in, and the funding, and Musk, and Doge, and the rest, leaving us tremendously vulnerable. As Warren Buffett famously said it in another context, nobody knows you're swimming naked until the tide rolls out or rolls in. And there you are. We're swimming naked right now in terms of national security and homeland security. Chasing immigrants through Home Depot parking lots is not making me sleep well at night, because I'm worried about sports arenas, shopping malls, movie theaters, bowling alleys, supermarkets, and the rest of the soft underbelly, unfortunately, of America, given the size and scale of our country. And watching him in action, while, I was like, oh God, we got to talk about how they couldn't catch the killer. But think about the deeper implications of what we're just watching about the future mass casualty event or terrorist event that's going to happen, not because I want it to happen, because historically is going to happen. And it's certainly going to happen when we don't have any line of defense or firewall around America, because it's being led by a band of incompetents.
And you don't have to take Michael Popak's word for it or mine. Maybe take the word of Brian Driscoll, former acting director of the FBI, Stephen Jensen, one of the top counterterrorism people, major leader at the FBI, as high as you get, other than Driscoll, who was literally as high as you get, Spencer Evans, a 20-year veteran of the FBI. Those three individuals, not exactly litigious people, right? They sued the FBI actually the morning when Charlie Kirk was killed. And they sued the FBI. They sued the obviously unrelated, and they didn't know what was going to happen. It just happened to be the morning that they filed the lawsuit. And they said, this FBI, after they've unlawfully fired us, and the reason why they told us they were getting rid of us and others is because Donald Trump wanted retaliation and retribution. And Kash Patel said the only way he keeps his job is if he fires all of the people in the FBI that Trump wants to inflict retaliation and retribution against. And they also said that there's going to be lots of issues that are going to emerge because Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are more concerned about social media likes and reposts than the integrity of what the FBI does. So that lawsuit was filed in federal court in Washington, D.C. earlier in the morning, and then later we learned about the killing of Charlie Kirk. I just want to say this before going to the first quick break. Charlie Kirk was a very bad guy. Okay, we condemn violence in the strongest possible terms here on the Midas Touch Network. But what's pissed me off is to try to see corporate news coverage act like this was a good guy. Okay, Charlie Kirk was a bad guy who said terrible things about black people, gay people, trans people, the minorities in general. This was someone who said that the Civil Rights Act was a mistake and shouldn't have taken place. This was someone who, after very violent and horrific events and shootings, would say things like, "This is just what you have to do if you want a Second Amendment. There's nothing that we can do about it." And a lot of other very hateful, hurtful, divisive things. So people pretending this was like a good guy who like rallied people to unity, the exact opposite of it. Nonetheless, it is critical that we say, even with people who say hateful and horrible things, the way to deal with those differences is nonviolently, okay? It's through debate. It's through winning with your ideas. It's like winning the way we're winning on the Midas Touch Network, where we get more views and more engagement than other networks.
Welcome back. We sit at the intersection of law and politics so that you don't have to. Ben Meiselas and me do the show on Saturdays. I'm joined by Karen Friedman-Agnifilo on Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, only on the Midas Touch Network. We do that. We do ad-free versions of the show on Legal AF Substack, and you can grab a copy of it there. You're here on Legal AF YouTube. Take a moment, hit the free subscribe button as well, and help our Midas Touch Legal AF YouTube and podcast platform versions. Help them stay up at the top of the charts. They need that little bit of oxygen, that little bit of lift, so we can stay on the air. That's how that works. We're doing well with your support. Really do appreciate each and every one of you. Until my next reporting, I'm Michael Popak. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.